I'm here with adorable Rachel.
Adorable Rachel, that's me. Hi.
We just saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse, yes.
And it was in
4D. The animation's incredible, the story's incredible, the characters are great. Great sense of humor to it. It's awesome. Go see it.
Make sure you subscribe to her channel. She's got a lot of great content.
Aw, thank you. Yeah, see you guys over there.
We all saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and now we are going to do our lovely little movie review.
Yay!
Spoiler free.
And then spoiler filled.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm here with Keith, Edie, and Mackenzie Rayne.
Hey guys.
Hi.
I'm a huge Spider-Man fan from like day one.
And I know very little, so here we go.
So listen more to Mackenzie. This is the deep dive nerd. This is the average nerd.
Yes.
Jump in actually into the review. So for Spider-Verse, how it took those, we'll say the Tobey Maguire ones specifically, those Tobey Maguire ones, and actually wrapped those up, kind of like what happened to that that Spider-Man, to that Peter Parker,
so well
and where he was. I thought that was, first off, brilliant.
Something that I really enjoyed though is like in all these other Spider-Man films, they're normally adults playing like a kid. But then you have like an actual animation of a kid going to real high school and all that kind of stuff, and it's like real high school.
Yeah.
But you have all this, and so you actually know him as a child, and you really get the whole like feel of this is just a kid becoming a superhero.
And there was an origin story in this, but it technically was a different origin story. We see like the backstory of literally every character.
When Spider-Man first started, totally unique things about him at the time was, so when Stanley first wrote him, Stanley and Steve Ditko drew it, he was 16.
Yeah.
And up to that point, in comic books, kids were sidekicks.
Right.
Kids were always the sidekick, and so for the first time, a young person was front and center, and he would make choices about this, and he was called Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It might be the best movie I've seen all year. Like, I say that up against everything, unequivocally, and it's really a disappointment that it won't get consideration with that. Like, probably won't even get consideration for best animated.
It's not going to, but it totally more than deserves.
Take this in context. I'm a crier. Like, I'll just put that out there for the internet right now. But I wept openly at
me too.
multiple points in this movie.
But there's a lot of subtle wit in this movie, and I really enjoy subtle wit, so I was cracking up. And I don't laugh a lot during movies. Most of the time I'm just like, but no. This one was like full-on laughter. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I couldn't get over the amount of work that had to have gone into this film.
My God.
It was like every single shot was beautiful. Every single moment was like, wow, that looks so cool and so interesting.
You had 3D animation, and then you had line art on top of that, and then the shading and the highlights were all like dots, like comic books.
And you got anime.
That was so...
You had anime.
You have anime
and cartoon,
and you have straight up cartoon.
Just a second ago, I thought it was brilliant the way they made it look like a comic book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
With the cross hatching and the
every little moment, like when Miles almost gets hit by a car, which they show in the trailer, you see a vroom, but you only see it if you really pay attention to it.
The story, it is so imaginative what they took, because we're all pretty familiar with the idea of multiverses now. They even took it then to just another place with that, like the imagination with the story.
I have a fault in watching action movies because sometimes I just like totally daze out whenever there's like a lot of fighting. I typically get to zone out, but when you're watching this movie, there's so much to watch, and it's not like just fighting. You got all like the stylization we were talking about, you got the plot that we were talking about.
So good.
And then it like breaks it up, so it's not just like, look at this guy hitting this guy. It's like, look at this panel, look at this. And it's just like a bunch of different fun stuff to watch. It's not just fight scenes.
Yeah. Hey, we haven't even mentioned the soundtrack yet, and I don't know that we have. You saw me. I was literally moving.
I was singing to some of the soundtrack. There's an 80s song, which is one of my favorite 80s songs, and and I'm like, yeah, and then it cuts off, and I like thankfully caught myself before I start screaming it out in the audience. So that's our spoiler-free review.
Yeah.
And now let's get into our spoiler-filled review. So any of you watching, if you don't want this movie totally ruined for you, step out of the room, or go ahead and click on that link above Keith's head right now. Okay, you've been warned, let's go into it.
There's a moment in the movie where Miles won't tell his dad he loves him when he's in the cop car when he's getting dropped off at school, so Miles' dad gets on the overhead speaker in the cop car and tells him, I want to hear you say it. Say you love me. And it's just like super embarrassing. And it's totally something my dad would have done.
They don't waste time with the plot in this movie. They go, like, you go straight into the plot, and there's even parts of the plot that already happened that are crucial to what happens in the overall story that you don't even know about, has already occurred before the movie even starts, which to me is the mark of a good movie.
Yeah. We know Jake Johnson is voicing Spider-Man, but it starts out with a Spider-Man and
I'm like, it's not Jake Johnson.
It was close enough that at first I didn't, and I was just into the movie, but then I started going, wait a minute, that doesn't actually sound like Jake Johnson. What's going on here? And then the reveal that Spider-Man's blonde, and so that's kind of...
I was like, what is Sony pulling on us like, here? The trailer showed us something very different.
And then when we find out that that's actually in the Ultimate Universe, which is the Miles Morales Spider-Man, Peter Parker dies at a young age. For this to get the dynamic of mentor and mentee, right? We have Spider-Man who's a little older, and this is all Ultimate Universe. We're here, and then we're gonna bring in original Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and that is this broken down divorcee who's overweight, and I was like, oh my gosh, Spider-Man is beyond any age, size, color, gender, non-gender, anyone can do that.
It is a message, it's like the deep-rooted message throughout the whole thing is that anyone can be Spider-Man. That is really what they say.
What Spider-Man has always been.
I think Stan Lee even directly says it in the movie because he plays a character in this movie.
He sells Miles a Spider-Man costume after the Ultimate Peter Parker has died. He sells him that costume and he says...
It will fit eventually.
The movie's villains are fun. They're so interesting.
Scorpion is great. I would have loved more Scorpion.
I thought it was
Tombstone.
Oh,
talk about a deep dive of character villains to pull out.
Although I really like Tombstone.
Guy who chewed on the thing, the Kingpin's bodyguard.
He's got the gray face.
The gray face.
Okay.
I actually like his character in the comic books. I always thought he was very menacing, Tombstone.
Oh, yeah,
he's like a really scary gangster who is insanely superhuman strong. And
I just thought it was like
he murders so many people.
Yeah,
like,
in the comic book.
He's terrifying. I love their interesting take on the Green Goblin. He's this giant dragon thing.
Well, that's Ultimate Green Goblin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's actually, all of those are pulled straight from the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, the Ultimate Universe is freaking wild.
Yeah, the
Ultimate. I realized that Doc Ock was a girl, and so when you told me that she's a girl in the Ultimate Universe,
in the Ultimate Universe, Doc Ock is a woman.
Oh, and she's so great in this movie.
Oh, and she is.
You know what I thought? I thought they were doing an homage to Gilda Radner.
Oh.
I could see that.
Like the way she was drawn, I was like, oh, that's good, because she was this kooky scientist in there, and I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. I was like, oh, maybe, you know, the creators really like Gilda Radner, so they're like, yeah, we're gonna do a...
I felt like Sony was directly, like, because they had already referenced a lot of their Sony-verse version of Spider-Man in this movie, which was great. But I honestly thought they were trying to connect us with Jenny Slate's character from the Venom movie because she was basically the same character except totally evil.
Hey guys.
I want there to be a Spider-Gwen movie now. Like,
you totally have a Spider-Gwen
I never understood her name. I'm like, how do you keep yourself secret if your superhero name is
Spider-Woman in this movie. She says she is Spider-Woman.
She does.
In the comics, they call her Spider-Gwen, though.
Yeah,
she's referred to as Spider-Gwen.
But I just thought she was amazing. And then there's the basically the same Mary Jane, except she exists within the Ultimate Universe.
Mary Jane's pretty standard across Spider-Man as well. That's just the Miles Morales storyline within the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah.
Because the Ultimate Universe has a Peter Parker, which has an Uncle Ben, which has an Aunt May, which has a Mary Jane, which has a Gwen Stacy. So technically, actually, Gwen Stacy would exist in that Ultimate Universe already. Just Miles doesn't know her.
Right.
Okay. Anytime there's like a female lead on equal playing field as a male lead, they normally have to fall in love, and I kind of love that they didn't force it between Spider-Gwen and Miles. And this one, it's just like the friendship at the end. They're like, friends.
I loved how twisted Kingpin's motives are in this movie, and the fact that he's just trying to bring back his deceased wife and child. But by pulling them from another universe, which means you're technically pulling them away from
a different version of yourself.
Yeah. So he's a very selfish character in this.
I kind of wondered at one point, is like, why don't you just implant yourself in a different
into their universe
where you're the kingpin of everything? Yeah, that was really bad. But where you get to be the one that's like ultimate. While this is going on, do all these other universes not have spider people?
I would assume.
Yeah.
So
because it's not a time thing; it's an alternate universe thing.
Kind of a time thing as well.
Well, it's connected, yes.
Because she gets pulled back a week before. So I was actually,
that's true.
At first, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Brunette Peter Parker is...
Peter B. Parker.
Yes, Peter B. Parker. He's actually from the future. And in his flashback, when he introduces himself, he's like, for 22 years, I was being Spider-Man. I'm like, wait, so you got bit at 4 years old? Because this one died at 26.
Spider-Man Noir was actually, bizarrely, the most fish out of water. He doesn't mentally exist in this universe, whereas the rest of them can kind of get down with what's going on. He's just like, everything's climactic and everything's... It's just like, he never breaks character. This is just who he is. He is from that world. That is how they speak there, and everything's very bleak, but also like... dramatic. So I never read the comics. Apparently I'm missing out here on Peter Porker because I was like, wait, really, this happened? He's voiced by John Mulaney. Yeah. And I just love the casting choice for that because he's so just, he knows he's ridiculous. Yes. Like the character knows I'm a pig. I'm a talking pig.
And the tagline was great when he leaves. That's all, folks.
And Aunt May was fantastic too. Like,
Aunt May was fantastic. And the pathos was there too, so it wasn't just all funny and action, like it was heartfelt.
I do have one question though. I'm wondering why Gwen didn't really have a big reaction to Peter B. Parker. Because wasn't it her Peter Parker that died? Where was this? I wanted to see like just...
Because that's her best friend and that's her big loss.
Well, I think probably Peter Porker a second. on that one, right? Your thought is completely valid. I'm not saying it's not. I would say for a reason.
Yeah, it totally is.
I would say she sees this very much overweight older man where her Peter died at 15.
Yeah.
And so it's very...
It's practically a different
person going, oh, that's... Whereas Peter sees the MJ that looks...
Just like the MJ.
Just like his MJ.
Oh, yeah. But I still wanted that, like, one moment of, like, a double take or something to be like, oh.
Absolutely.
Oh.
You should definitely try to watch it for the story. It's worth seeing more than once, which is why I'm so excited to be seeing it again. But towards the end there, it was so over-the-top beautiful. Like, the movie in general is, but like, oh my god, there's so much going on here. It's so beautiful, but not hard to follow, but just so beautiful. Sony hit it out of the park with this one. They officially figured out Spider-Man.
I think so too. I would say
this movie. Yeah.
Well done.
Good job, people.
Well, at the same time, at the very end of the movie, they had Gwen talking to Miles again.
They did.
Very last sentence of the movie.
I would imagine.
I imagine they're still gonna like have some kind of way to travel between universes with the Miles character.
At the end of Venom, there is a post-credit scene that goes in an alternate universe, and then it cuts to a scene within Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So.
Yeah, I would imagine they're trying to multiverse. Venom is going to end up in animated form in the sequel, and they can
like they pull him from the real world.
Do you think they'll ever like Roger Rabbit it, where they have real life people with?
This was far superior. My personal favorite Spider-Man movie, and I am religiously like committed to the MCU, and I'm like,
me too.
This is still my favorite Spider-Man movie.
I won't put it quite above Homecoming, but I would. They're neck and neck.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's like almost the same thing.
I think we agree across the board that this is an A+ movie. It's A+. It's fun for literally everyone.
Now.
Go see it.
Oh,
this is my fan theory. What's yours? Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and click that bell to be notified of future episodes. And don't forget to go check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/fantheorytv. We have all kinds of goodies, including full-length episodes of We Watch shows, as well as unaired episodes of Fan Theory, and so much more. Check it out now, guys. You'll love it.